to do what it usually takes me about 90 minutes to do, so but I think you all are a lot faster. So yeah, my name's David Gann, and I'm the co-founder of the JALT Critical Thinking SIG. So I specialize most of my activities having to do with critical thinking. Now, I have quite a large, expansive theme and curriculum for teaching critical thinking, and it really has gotten to the point where I can't even present on it in short presentations or anymore. So what I'm doing today is just something that you can use in your classes. Anyone can do it. It's just a standalone activity that you can do in one class, and I think it accomplishes many of the goals that you would want to teach for stimulating students' higher thinking skills. Just a moment. I will bring up this sheet. I'll give you a handout later, but I don't want you to be distracted from it. But just the main point here is Bloom's taxonomy, I hope that you are familiar with. And as I go through this activity, I'd like you to think about how many of these points in Bloom's taxonomy am I simulating in the students as they're doing this. So, I'm doing a magic trick today. Okay, so hope everyone enjoys magic. I've got you sir, you have big hands. Would you please stand up and stand up and shuffle this deck for everyone. All right. And make sure it's empty. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And just shuffle the deck and see, sir, that the box is indeed empty. Yep. Yeah, just like life. Now, excuse me for a moment. While you're doing that, I'm going to come over here and I've been here earlier. I could have done this. You can just return that to the box. Put it right back in the box. Now this is a magic trick that I started using about 18 years ago when I was a fresh ALT and it was sort of just the David Gann show. So I'm the center and I'm doing a magic trick. And then I started expanding it and developing it, and it turned into an activity that I could get every person in the room standing doing something with. And I developed it further into a 4 skills lesson. It's pretty basic numbers, though. It's not so communicative at that point. And then in the last 3 years, I've expanded it to become a 5 skills activity, including critical thinking. Now I feel like it's really reached its fruition with that. So what I would have done with the students beforehand is practice reading long numbers. Again, not the most communicative activity, but students do need to be able to read numbers. I find most textbooks are don't really present numbers in a terribly interesting way, so I think I can recommend this activity for that. So the deck has been shuffled. Yes, sir, thank you. And close that. And what we're going to do is we're going to use mathematics to find the top card on this deck. Yes, I know it sounds impossible, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, you sir, could you please write a 9, you can sit down, you don't need to stand up, but write a 9-digit number. Now I've already given them a 9-digit number to save time, but could you, yes, I know you've been so busy, but I'll ask you to do even more. Steve, could you please read your number to him, and he's going to write the number on the board.
Shall I read it in my calendar? 682,000.
Yes, just
okay.
as.
682,473,150.
Okay, thank you. Could you pass that to someone who looks like they would like to say?
Michael, by all means.
Okay, now I'm gonna read a number to you, and your number is 317,526,840. Okay, thank you, thank you. And then, come to the next person over here. Yes, sir. And could you please write a number, and could you please read the second number?
Sure thing.
The third number, yes.
Are you ready?
Third, the second student.
Okay. 892,415,376.
Okay, and could you give that marker then to someone after? Give the marker to. Okay, and the next number is 107,000, million. 584,000.
One more time.
107 million. Oops.
Whoops.
107 million. 584,623. Okay, thank you. Yeah, from my magic brain. Yes. Now, okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit here because I see I'm actually doing pretty well on time. Now, let me say a few things about this. This is a student number. This is a teacher number. That's a student number, and that's a teacher number. When I asked the two students at the rear sides, right and left and right of the class to write these numbers, I asked them to write a random number. Okay, so that's a key word in our vocabulary we're trying to build up in this exercise. Random. So you need to write a random number. Yes?
You're matching up so they match up to 9.
Very good, very good. But you're not supposed to say that yet. But we will talk, yeah. So they're not really random, are they? Yeah, that's right. They're not really random. That is very obvious. Now, I'll show you later how you can make it so it's not so obvious, but, where was I? Yes, you got student, teacher, student, teacher. Now, you must be sure to tell the students no zeros in your number, no zeros in your number. Now you might say, oh, Mr. Gann, you wrote a 0 in your number. I say, well, I'm the teacher. I can do that. So if it's a 9, yeah, obviously a 9 minus 9 equals a 0, so that's why. But you can't have a 0 here because you can't say 0 minus a number, or
Why can't the student divide a 0?
Because if they write a 0 here, then you got 9 minus 0, and you end up with 9. Yeah. Good question. It just doesn't work. Just
0 minus 0.
yeah, that would make a problem. Think
Well,
about
so
it.
the two numbers add up to, numbers add up to 9.
Yes, they will. They will end up down here. It's going to be a 9. Yes. But being absolutely inept at mathematics, I'm afraid I can't answer that question very well. But we'll think about it for a moment.
It'll become obvious to you later.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Right. And also make sure that you ask the students to use all the numbers. That's a very good way to avoid getting numbers like this. Which some students will do. They'll try to be smart and do some ridiculous numbers. So, or just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I get those sometimes. So tell them to make it random. Okay, now we're going to have one last number, and I'll give that to you then. And the last number I'll ask you to write is 543.
Am I writing a student number?
Yes, that's right. 543,235,621. Oh, whoops. Okay, well, wait,
I'm just anticipating
you don't
you.
need, well, wait a
I'm
second.
already anticipating.
Don't
you.
worry, don't worry about it. 9 minus 9. Okay, oh, sorry, well, I've got actually someone who's gonna handle this, person who's really good at mathematics over here, just to speed things along. And could you please add these numbers up here?
All right, everyone, please help me here, so.
Yes.
Okay, 9, 6, 15, 18, 19.
Yeah, thank you, good.
9, 7, 16, 18, 20. All right, 3, 11, 14, 20, 26.
Yeah.
5, 11, 16, 20, 25. You guys are double checking, right? 11, 12.
Gee, you can just write the numbers, Sylvain, don't worry, we're suitably impressed with
11,
your
15, 22.
mathematical acumen.
We have about 12 minutes.
Yeah, we got about 12 minutes, so you can just, like.
No pressure.
All right. 8, 11, 19, 20, 25. Here it is.
Thank you, gosh, you are,
And-
oh yeah, 2 billion, okay. Now, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I could not have done that. Now, I kind of got off track for a second, but another thing that I'm asking students to do is to come up and write these numbers out in English. And again, it's not the most brilliant activity in the world, but you do come across some anomalies and things to find that they're doing wrong. So let's just, I'm not going to write these out, but okay, so okay, this student wrote here in English, and in English. So I've had 5 students who are coming up and writing it out in English. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's right. That's why I gave you the number. Now what I'll do next is, after this has all been done, and I've had, how many students in this have been doing something now? I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students listening and speaking, right? And I've also had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 doing writing. And what I do next is I erase all these. Usually cleaner than that, but, and then I bring up another 5 students and I say, okay, read the English and rewrite the numbers. And I check it. So there's reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And then I erase everything. And that leaves me with this sum, excuse me for a second, that leaves me with this sum at the top of, okay, could we read that together, please? We'll just do a little reading practice.
2,543,235,619.
Okay, now we have the deck of cards that you shuffled, yes? Did you do a good job shuffling it? They're random?
They're random.
Randomized? Okay, very good. Now, we're going to try to find the top card here. Nothing's coming. So we're going to have to use a secret code. The secret code looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The card is, okay, so I'm going to save a little bit of time here, but I say, how many digits, how many letters do you see here?
9.
9. How many digits do I have here? 10. Wow, look. That gets a lot of laughs usually. Now, if we plug, I'll save a little time here because we are running a little short. If you plug this code in here, you get a 5. Oh, A, 4, a C, and moving moving right along, I think you'll find that you get the word ace hearts, which they have trouble usually. Ace hearts, okay. And then we take the deck of cards, which Mr. Fenton here has shuffled, and we find that the, uh-oh, I think I messed up here. There was some left in there, I'm sorry about that. And the last thing is we put the ace of hearts on the top of the deck.
Wow.
And
How'd you do that?
Yeah.
And I swear, this is a great magic trick. I mean, I just get gasps of astonishment every time I do this. It's very effective. I usually do this on the day we have teacher evaluation. And it's shamelessly pandering, but it turns out pretty well. Okay, great. So I'm brilliant, and this is a great magic trick. And thank you, everybody, but we're not finished yet. How many minutes do I have left?
7 minutes.
7 minutes, perfect. Okay. So, yeah, this is what did we do here? We read some numbers, reading, writing, speaking, listening. It's not that great, actually. It's fun, but what did we learn except a lot of repetition? So what to do then? And this to me is where this activity gets really interesting after this. I asked the students to tell me what happened. What did they see here? What happened in this activity? This is where it gets actually interesting for me. So they break into their groups, and they usually, I got a group here, group here, group here, group here, and they all come up and write it on the board. See, I'm trying to make this not teacher-centered, but student-centered as much as possible. And so what we usually get is excuse me, I'm writing a little bit fast here, so my handwriting's a bit, or students might write, he shuffled cards. And I say, well, he shuffled, we would have, he shuffled the cards, yes? He shuffled the cards. And I would have already also taught them deck of cards that would have been up on the board with random already. So he shuffled the deck of cards. What happened next? We wrote numbers on the board. What kind of numbers?
Long numbers.
Long numbers, yeah, I thought you were very
Nine-digit
clever,
numbers.
very clever, yeah. And random numbers.
Random nine-digit numbers.
That's right, yeah. Random numbers, yes. And what was the next thing that happened? Can you tell me what was the next thing that happened? We added the numbers, yes. And yes, how about you? What was the next thing that happened? We used
The code.
the code, yes. The code. And finally, yes, back there, what was the very last thing that?
He pulled the ace of cards, ace of hearts out of the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the code spelled ace, hearts,
Does it ever spell anything else?
never. That would be a great trick. I'd love to see that. And then yes, and then we pulled out the ace hearts. Now, in my class, we will have already discussed argument in my class. Critical thinking involves 3 tiers of skills: argument analysis, the identification of premises and the identification of conclusions, the evaluation of the truth value, and the evaluation of the strength of the logic in an argument, and finally, generalization and creativity, creating. So in this activity, I've gone from memory, understanding through the discussion, applying it. Oh, that's me. So, if I may, get this will take about 1 minute. So how is this done? What was false? I do have
The
my-
idea that the cards were in random order.
That's right, but does that explain, they got that one right, so they say, oh, that was false, it wasn't random.
The teacher cheated.
The teacher cheated, but how does that explain how the cards were done? Well, I showed them this video.
It's two strengths. You know, breaking ball is really been his kryptonite, especially for the right hand. As soon as he learns to recognize that pitch a little bit earlier. See that kid there in the pink glasses? Earlier in the game, Luis Rivera throws him a baseball. Now watch what he does. He catches that baseball and then turns to the group of young ladies behind him and said, "Hey ladies, would you like aren't you so sweet?"
So, I asked the students, okay, what's false about this? How can we rewrite this sentence to make it true? What did he do? They say, oh, he gave the girls the ball. Well, then they look at it and go, oh, he gave the girls a ball. Now, how can we rewrite this sentence to make it true? He shuffled the deck or a deck? A deck, yeah, because of course I had 2 decks. And I've done this magic trick hundreds of times by now, and no one has ever caught me doing this. Because when they're writing all these numbers out in English, they're all so busy, and it's just a cinch to just pull. Never been caught. Yeah, so I hope that you will agree that in fact this does fulfill the requirements of Bloom's taxonomy sufficiently to qualify as a decent activity, I hope a very good activity for the students, finally evaluating the argument and then creating new information from a novel situation. Transfer of knowledge from the baseball game to what just happened in the classroom. So, I'm sorry to run over time, and that's perfect. I have handouts here because I know it got very